Materials in your scene can make or break your renders. So in this video, I will show you how to create realistic materials in Lumion. Let's get started. When you first import a model in Lumion, you can use the material library to apply the materials to your objects. Lumion already has a good material library, but the cool thing is that you can also create your own PBR materials. So what are PBR materials? Physically based rendering, or PBR, is a method of shading and rendering that provides a more accurate representation of how light interacts with material properties, allowing you to create realistic materials in your rendering software. There are many websites that provide PBR materials. I cover them in these videos. For this video, I will download some materials from Polygon, which is a good website for premium materials, but it also has free materials. I will use this material here. After it is downloaded, just unpack the zip file to get these different maps. As you can see, a set of PBR materials often consists of multiple images or maps. I will cover what each of these maps are and their functionality throughout the video. Now let's go back into Lumion and click on the surface that you want to import the map. In the Settings tab, you will see many different parameters. First is the texture map, which is equivalent to a diffuse or a color map. This is a map that contains color information. You can click on this button to import your own texture map. To know which map to use, we can look at the name of each map to see what type of map they are. You can see that our material has been updated to show the texture map. When you import the material, you can change the size by adjusting the map scale here. If you go down here, then you can use the X, Y, and Z offset sliders to position the texture map, while the other three sliders let you rotate and shear the map in different directions. I usually don't do this in Lumion because I prefer doing it in my 3D application. For example, I will reset this material to its original properties. Now in my 3D application, I can import the diffuse map and make the changes to the material scale and position. Then I can re-import the model, but in this case, I am using the Live Sync plugin to link my model directly to Lumion, so any changes I make will be updated in Lumion immediately. Then again, you can use this material scale to adjust the size of the texture map. If you drag it all the way to the left, this will revert it back to the original scale of the imported texture. Next is the relief map, also known as the normal map, which is a map that is used to create an illusion of depth on the surface of an object. In Lumion, even if you do not have a normal map, you can click these three dots and click here to automatically generate the normal information based on the texture map. After that, you can control the intensity using the slider here. You can also invert the normal map using this button. It's quite hard to see the effects, so we can slide the texture slider all the way to the left to override the texture map with our base color, which you can change to a different color if you like. There we go, now we can see the effects easier. However, this method is only for when you don't have a normal map, but to achieve the most realistic result, it's best to import the normal map that comes with the PBR material. There we go, that looks a lot better now. Now you can adjust the intensity of the normal map using this slider. Whenever you use normal maps, sometimes the direction of the shadows is not correct relative to the direction of the sunlight. This is because there are two types of normal maps, DirectX and OpenGL. Lumion uses DirectX, while the normal map that we downloaded from Polygon uses OpenGL. So to fix this, you can click on these three dots and click on this button to flip the green channel of the normal map. There we go, that looks correct now. Next is the roughness and reflectivity parameters. The reflectivity parameter is where we can put a reflection map. This will control the intensity of the reflection of the material. The roughness parameter is where we can input a roughness map, which controls how smooth or rough your material will be. Note that the normal map will also affect the look of our material, so for now, I will set the relief value to 0, just so that we can see the full effects of this parameter. And again, if you want to see the effects easier, you can set the texture map slider to 0% and override it with a dark color. You can see that at the value of 200%, the material will be very rough, and at 0%, the material will be very smooth. So what is a roughness map? A roughness map is a black and white map that defines how rough or smooth your material will be. The darker area will make the material smoother and more glossy, while the lighter area will make the material rougher and less glossy. It's important to note that the roughness maps and glossiness maps are inverse of each other. And since this material doesn't have a roughness map, but it has a glossiness map, so we can import it in the roughness slot, then click these three dots and click on Invert Map. This process is similar to inverting the map in Photoshop, but having the inverse option in Lumion just makes it a lot faster. Then again, we can use the slider to adjust the intensity, and as you can see, with some quick work, we can have a much more realistic material than before. Just repeat this workflow for any other material in the scene that you want to work on. There's also an option to copy and paste a material. For example, I can copy this leather material, and then I can paste it over here. Then I can make any changes, like changing the color for example. And there we go, that helps make my workflow a lot faster. The next slider is the metalness slider, which if it's set to maximum, then it will make the material metallic, but if it's set to 0, then material will be non-metallic. When working with metal materials, the color of reflection for the material is decided by the base color and the texture map. For custom materials which can be downloaded from websites like Polygon, sometimes it will offer a metalness workflow. This workflow comes with a roughness map, so we don't have to invert it after importing. And more importantly, it comes with a metalness map, which is a grayscale map where the white represents fully metallic and the black represents non-metallic. Here you can see the parts that are white are metallic, while the parts that are black are rusty non-metallic. Lumion also has a displacement parameter where you can add a displacement map, which is a black and white image that tells the computer how and where to displace its surface. The difference between a normal and a displacement map is a normal map only changes the way the light affects the surface, giving it an illusion of depth, while a displacement map uses parallax mapping to create more realistic bump effects. Next is the opacity slider, which controls how transparent a material will be. For custom materials, you can load in the opacity map, which is a black and white map where the white color is opaque and the black color is transparent. Alternatively, if the material comes with a PNG texture map that's already masked out, then the alpha channel will be automatically assigned to the opacity map slot. Lumion also has a subsurface scattering slider, which will give an object a translucent effect, allowing light to penetrate and be scattered by the material. If you assign a color other than white, it will give the material a tint of that color. You can also explore the other options in this panel, such as this slider, which will soften the edges of an object. This is a great way to smooth edges without adding more polygons to the 3D scenes. Next is the clear coat slider, which will add a layer of colorless resin-like finish to a surface. This is great for creating materials like varnished wood. In the new version of Lumion, the glass material has a special parameter called frostiness, which controls the translucency of the surface. You can also add a custom map to create a frosted pattern. Combine this with the relief and texture maps to create highly realistic patterned glass like this. And those are the tips for creating realistic materials in Lumion. Check out this video for more material tips and tricks in Lumion. Stay inspired guys, and I'll see you next time.